Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
What's up, brothers?
How's it going?
Good, man. So we're at the Bookhouse Pub, so big thank you to them and their hospitality. And it is hot outside, but it's cool in here.
Yes.
Ponds Fest, shout out to Eric and everyone at Southern Star Tattoo and all the artists and bands and vendors. But really, much love to Bookhouse Pub. Shout out to our partner in rhyme, Cassie. Hope you're feeling better. Much love and respect, always. My name is T. Chesh. This is my brother, James Joyce. This is my other brother, Blake Rainey. We've been in bands together, we've sang songs together, and we are far from finished. The cool thing about this show is we get to talk to our best friends about our best music or our favorite music. So I'm going to give you the floor. Talk to me. What record you pick?
I picked Tim by The Replacements, which
I know.
The classic.
might as well,
So
yeah.
good. And this has been a long time coming. We've been talking to you about it for like a year now.
I know, right?
We'll put it up
right.
here on display.
And you went out of town.
So cheers, man.
cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers. It's a
All right.
nice
Cheers,
Pilsner
cheers.
afternoon. Yeah, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the letter R, and when I think of my favorite bands with the letter R, immediately, without even skipping a beat, I think of the Ramones and the Replacements.
That's true.
And
Yep.
this album is poetry in motion, and it's like so much like heartfelt, like heartbreaking, like almost written in diary stuff, but also sarcastic, witty,
Right.
funny stuff.
Yeah.
Like your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, that album really hits on their second class sort of citizen, the way they felt like, they just were identified themselves as losers. But,
Yes.
beautiful losers.
Yeah, beautiful
So-
losers. Yeah, it's really funny when we do this show, and I love every episode we've done has been so special, and every guest has been so special. But I love when certain things interact, and I remember when I got turned on to Tom Waits, who's inspired certainly you and I when we've talked about writing and stuff. And in an interview, I guess in the late '80s, early '90s, he said his favorite bands were the Pogues and the Replacements.
Yeah.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, all right, well, you're in good company when you're getting name dropped by.
Yeah, have you heard those like late night recordings they did with Tom Waits?
No.
Oh, it's like 3 a.m, like pissed.
They were all drinking.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like way
Sloppy,
drinking.
sloppy, beautiful. Losers.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe on that I heard about on more about Please Meet Me, but I'm sure Tim had a little bit of this element too, where it's like they had a certain window where you had to get just drunk enough to play well, but then at about that time they were just too fucked up and they
Right.
just couldn't. It was
Yeah,
like,
totally.
It was like you get this magic window every day to get the most
And if
brilliant
you get that 45
performances.
minutes, you're the luckiest
and
band
then
on
and
the planet.
you'll get the best music, and then it all just kind of goes sideways.
Yeah. I think Bob at that time was so unreliable. Like I think Paul did most of the leads and stuff.
Wow.
I mean, there's definitely Bob leads on that
During
record,
these
but-
sessions.
Yeah, during the Tim
Yeah.
sessions.
So there's
yeah.
things he probably didn't even play on, but he got credit for playing on.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
the story, how the story goes. But.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play James Joyce, one of my favorite people on the planet, but one of my favorite music fans on the planet.
Yeah.
And I love it. He always beats me to the punch, but I want to beat him to the punch. Where were you and how old were you when you first discovered this record? That's
Oh
a James
my
Joyce
gosh.
question.
Okay.
Where was I and how old was I?
Yeah, or like, just
see.
where were you in your life? Because I mean, I know a lot about you, but share with
Your
our,
first
our
exposure
viewers and our
to the
listeners.
Replacements.
I grew up in.
I know mine.
In
Yeah.
Cedartown, Georgia, a little podunk place, and we were lucky kids. We had college aged like cousins and friends of cousins and whatnot that were always bringing music down.
Yeah.
So I think I was probably like 11 or 12 years old, like probably 2 years after
man.
it came out.
So both of you are way cooler than me because I probably discovered it in my late teens. So,
Yeah, I found them really young, along with Tom Waits and The Clash and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But Tim, I think Tim was what, 85 when it came out or something like that?
Well, I always look at it when you see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
year it came out. It was probably recorded a year
Yeah, I was-
before.
I was-
I didn't bring my glasses. But
I was
we're about
9
to-
years old in '85, so I found it a couple of years after it came out.
That is so cool. So, like, Actually, I take that back because I really was. I was a music fan and I was a new waver for sure. And there was a great radio station in Long Island, New York called 92.7 WLIR. This documentary's been about it. It's that important of a station, Long Island Radio. And probably in 86 and 87, I was very much into music. Later on, it must have been Don't Tell a Soul. It was You and Me for a While, but You came out.
Right.
And then I went
think
back.
Probably with our age, Don't Tell a Soul was probably the first album that was like new.
So then I went back and
to
discovered
listen
everything
to,
else,
right.
and I go, this is the poetry
Yeah.
that I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Because it gets those guitars, it's like, you're right, it's like beautiful garbage pail rock.
If we were a little older, I think we would have. I mean, that's one of those things. We were just talking about it before we started. Is like, how cool would it have been if we were like 10 years older? We would have been probably seeing them at 688 or whatever. Like we kind of we're a little too young, at least Tom and I, to be in the like 688 Metroplex sort of era of Atlanta, where these bands would have come directly. So Don't Tell a Soul probably would have been. And I can't remember. I never got to see them.
Yeah, me neither. I was too
I
young.
saw him in New York a few
Westerberg.
years ago with Charles Freese playing drums.
Well, yeah, I
and
saw
it was
that.
fantastic. I saw him.
It still
reunion.
counts. It still counts.
Well, let me tell you,
I-
it was
you know.
fantastic. It's like I was very impressed. It
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah,
It was a good show of theirs.
fantastic.
I saw them at the Shaky Knees here. Is that
That's
the same
what
one
I
you're talking
wish-
about? Which
No, I saw him in New York.
you saw him in New York,
On the
okay.
tennis court in front of just a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
In Forest Hills, they have the old
Forest
tennis
Hills,
courts where I grew up, and I used to do bad things and not play tennis. You know,
There's a lot of things
but
you can do on a tennis court.
It's like basically two tennis courts, and then like 10,000 people like around it, and it's really so cool. I've seen I've seen a lot of shows there.
But the Shaky Knees one,
I saw the Shaky Knees when it started pouring down rain and everything, and we didn't know if they actually almost canceled that performance from what we heard, but they didn't. They came out.
Thanks, guys.
And they kicked ass. And actually, the first real rock show I ever saw I was 18, and it was Paul Westerberg on his 14 songs tour.
Yeah.
At the Variety Playhouse.
so Paul Westerberg is your guy, like your, because if you say you have Clash and Tom Waits and replacements, so you got Joe Strummer, Tom Waits, Paul Westerberg.
Paul Westerberg, yeah.
These are like the Father, Son, Holy Ghost or something.
Pretty much, and then you got Neil Young and you got
Young,
Elvis Costello.
Elvis Costello.
And,
It's like. It's like a 5-point star.
They're all
where
like
you
they're
come
all
from.
like
pretty much.
Bill
Yeah,
Burroughs scream into a guitar. It's the way I always imagined it.
Yep.
And I love that sarcasm, and we talk about this a lot on our show, and it's so much fun because it's our show. We can do whatever we want. But like I love like 3 lines that are gut wrenching, and this person was close to maybe ending their life, and then they say something so ridiculous, making fun of themselves.
Right.
Or so like or bringing Jesus into it, or
right.
just it's just it really reinforces how much I love what I listen to and what I do, but it makes me so happy that this person doesn't take themselves that serious.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Self-deprecating.
That's it.
Yeah.
The sarcasm.
That kind of Midwestern.
Yeah, that's
like
the other thing. I
very
mean, they
quintessential Midwestern, self-deprecating, self-sabotaging.
Yeah,
and they're like upper Midwest, so I think it's a little even
more
extreme. Yeah.
I think I love what you're saying about the 3 lines that are serious and one that's like fuck off.
Yeah.
But I think Paul Westerberg is a master of
so is,
he's good at that.
of almost like I read the Trouble Boys book.
Yeah.
Which was
I love
troubling.
that book.
It's a hard read.
It's a hard read. But
Yeah.
It's one of the best books about music.
I
think
remember you
ever
and I were
made.
chatting. It
that's
was before
what
the
I
show, and you were like, you texted, and you were like, you read it. I was like, I read it, and if they're trying to sell themselves as great humans, it's a difficult
it's
read.
not coming across.
But
It's a tough
as
one.
artists,
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
But I love how he would not think of his lyrics were so just free flowing that he would sort of change things at the moment. Never.
Oh, right. Scratch this out.
I think a lot of his songs. What do you need?
Take a look at it.
Oh yeah.
He would have a lot of for every brilliant line he would have a throwaway.
Yeah.
But they somehow work together.
But they changed constantly.
Oh, yeah,
almost to the point where when
some
they
you couldn't
playing
understand.
I think he never would write his lyrics down either.
That makes sense.
He would just they'd come out of him in this kind of improvised.
It very
mode.
much.
Yeah.
I always imagine.
Yeah.
It very much, it's the guy with the slop bucket late at night mopping, and he goes, oh, and as the water comes off this mop, and you see disgusting brown water hit this tile wall, and he's like, oh yeah, here comes a regular. Or it's like, oh
Yeah.
like, and there's just these thoughts comes in, that's the process. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I think that
let me
one's-
make that, happen.
He would write down some of them. A lot of them he would not write down.
Yeah.
There's a few in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame actually. What my father-in-law told me. Of Here Comes a Regular.
Is all written
Of
down.
his scribbles.
as-
Yeah, yeah.
I believe it. Well, that's what I was going to get into.
Well, I think he has something he wants to convey in the song,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's certain lines he definitely wants to
Right.
have, but then he like sort of keeps himself open for that.
Well, I was going to get
Yeah.
into that because there's so many, like, I love, it's such an insane thing. We talk about this a lot on the show as well. It's like these days people think about singles and like, if there's 6 good songs on a record, that's rare these days, whatever. And then, but we love the records that, you listen to the whole record, and it's like bookends and this beautiful story. And like, Here Comes a Regular might be the best closing song of all time on an album.
That's a good one.
I mean, it
Yeah.
really might be the best. Like, all right, this is it. Like walking
It's
out.
pretty heavy.
Heavy.
I think to me, Replacements have so many different types of songs. I love their anthems.
Yeah.
They're like victorious. They're just like hit singles, whatever. I like their goofy songs.
Right.
They're real sentimental songs. Sometimes I have to be in the right mood for.
Yeah.
I usually will make like a playlist or whatever of like through their albums my sort
Yeah.
of favorites. I do think Tim would be the one that I would
It's the
pick
best.
to
Yeah.
listen to it all the way through. I mean, it's
It's
in
like,
a way their
listen,
masterpiece.
I mean, late
would
at
say,
night,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
if it's one of those nights that goes to early morning, Here Comes a Regular makes sense.
Yeah.
But driving down the highway in the Honda Accord with the windows down,
Yeah.
blasting
You wanna
left
hear
to the
Bastards
dial,
Young?
Bastards
Yeah.
Young, and you want to scream it, or at least that's me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That makes
true.
me want to hear the remixes even more because
Yeah. So when did that came out last year, right?
I
I'll
know
have to
it,
get
the
that.
remixes come out in September.
Okay, so yeah, because
They're
I've
common,
seen
yeah.
some, and will there be like a booklet with it, or? 'cause
Yeah,
I
it's like
mean-
a big it's like one of they've been doing this for every record now. It's like they're getting $90 out of you again or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
but it comes with all this nice artwork and whatever.
man, I'll be getting
like the
that for
last
sure.
few were really, really cool, and I think Ed Stasium remixed everything. So there'll be haters, there'll be lovers,
I don't think I think it's a good sounding record, honestly. I mean, I can tell that it's going to sound great. It's going to sound better, but I'm not really
single, yeah.
disappointed with the. I'll probably
Original.
get it at least if they do an LP version of it, because this one, my copy has a skip. I think in Bastards of Young. Whenever I DJ it, it does a jump.
Because you
of
probably
like-
played it a lot.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
that was like, I think, like an MTV even video.
Well,
Like,
that was
a
my
pretty
first
big song.
exposure to the Replacements was their performance on Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was
So-
legendary.
When they would rerun all the Saturday Night's Live, I didn't see it live, obviously, or whatever. But like, you had your VHS, and you just record
Right.
all the reruns on
Oh, yeah.
on Comedy Central or HA,
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah,
it was
yeah,
called
yeah.
back then.
I used to have those
And,
tapes.
and they
yeah.
would have always the musical guest.
Right.
And usually they only played because I didn't see the second song. Because I know the second song they changed all
and
each
then
other's
they got,
clothes.
And then they got
Yes.
kicked out. They said you never.
And
play
then,
the
they,
song.
yeah, and they because he told Bob to fucking play or whatever in the middle of it. It went over the mic. And,
Oh yeah.
And so Lorne Michaels was all pissed off. That,
SNL, man.
come
You
on,
guys
fucker.
need to
yeah,
get some.
come on, fucker.
Come on,
SNL,
fucker.
you guys
Yeah.
need to get some balls.
But
We'll talk about it later.
I mean, Bastards of Young was such a great.
That is an anthem.
I mean,
Well, that's what I'm talking about
on
with the
Saturday Night Live,
sarcasm.
yeah.
When he talks about something in dirty jokes, like on the floor, like that lyric. He's
Yeah.
like,
From
we've
Can't-
done it together.
Yes, from Can't Hardly
Some
Wait.
cigarettes. Oh, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
But just that like.
But Bastards Young has all the.
Oh, Bastards Young.
All the best lyrics. About,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a triumphant song that will also have very emotional.
Well, that's the thing,
aspects to
and
it,
that's an art itself, is to say these self-deprecating things that are full of sadness, but the dichotomy, it's so anthemic
But it makes you
that you're
joyous.
like,
Yeah.
yes, we got this, and that's when the head's out the Honda Accord window, and you're driving to Athens at 80 miles an hour,
Yeah.
screaming it,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You fucking bury your
What
loved
is your
ones.
favorite
Yeah.
song? Because I mean, Left to the Dial just makes me like arm hairs all the time, and I mean, it also connects me when I first moved to Atlanta. Like reminds me of Album '88, just like all of the good. He talks about Georgia. He goes, Sweet Georgia.
Yeah, it's about Lynn Blakely, the girl
Yes.
from Let's Active. I think it's
That's
she was here
right,
for a little
yeah,
while.
yeah.
She's up in North Carolina.
We were
somewhere.
talking about that right before in the virtual green room. We were talking about that.
Favorite song on that record, though, man, that's hard.
I know.
I mean, Left to the Dial's great. Little Mascara's great.
Yeah.
I even like Swingin' Party a lot.
I
you
do
know.
too.
Yeah.
That's the one that, with the comparison to the public hanging or whatever.
Yeah.
Side by side, And like
Hold My
parties.
Life.
Hold My Life is
I mean,
great.
come on, it's all. I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a great, but it's like I said, all of their albums are always such a mixed bag. It's almost
Right.
like they didn't choose like, oh, here's one album of all anthems. Here's one album of all like sort of downbeat,
Right.
sad songs, or here's an album of, the heartfelt songs, really tender songs. It's like it's always like.
Yeah,
Here's an
yeah.
album of silly, stupid songs.
Yeah.
They
Well,
mix it all up.
It's a great
weird
mix. It's a
mixtape.
great mixed bag.
Yeah.
But the thing is out of all their albums, this is the best one to pick because it's like the most. Just it makes sense. Everything that's handed. To
It
you.
kind of like
It's a
all the
beautiful-
planets
it's
aligned
like The
for this album,
Outsiders.
for
It's just
sure.
a great
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
It's the centerpiece for everything they did, kind of. They got on the major label, but they were still, scrappy little punks.
Oh yeah, I remember when I read "Our Band Could Be Your Life" and they talked about.
Nick Santa.
Yeah.
I gotta reread it because they have a chapter in there.
Yes, they do. And again, it's not the easiest because I mean, Paul Westerberg, I would totally put up on that list of just these great with a pen, man, and really witty and
Yeah.
knows how to cut to the chase. No $100 words, $2. It's like Bukowski, almost like $2 words, like
Yeah.
right there, But how often are we asked to like separate like the artist from like do you like this person? But now I don't because I heard they weren't a good person or whatever. And it's like, well, listen. Artists and musicians are complicated people,
Yeah,
so
yes.
that's when I stopped. I was like,
They're not perfect.
it sounds like he didn't kill anybody.
Yes.
So I'm still a fan of his music. But it's just
they did so many things to shoot themselves in the foot.
That's the other
and,
thing.
Like,
It's
they
like
were
you wonder.
mean to people, and
That's how
it's hard
They-
to. Yeah.
Self-sabotage
and
for
when
sure.
you think about when I think about Minneapolis, it's funny. I think of Husker Du, and then later on Bob Mould and Sugar, and I think about the Replacement certainly. Now I think about like Lifter Puller and the whole steady, and certainly Prince.
Right.
But that's like 4 or 5 different people. But I probably know the most songs by the Replacements.
Yeah.
I know 30, 40 great songs by
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, totally. Westerberg was good. Like just
I like the
spinning out.
Grandpa Boy record, and so clearly.
I think I'm sure he's a frustrating guy.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Like that's.
yeah.
I think
That's
that's
the
the
impression
thing.
you get. Yeah.
That you want something out of him. You know it's in there, and he only gives it to you when he feels like he wants to.
Yeah.
And you deserve it.
There's an article that his ex-wife wrote it was in the Times, New York Times,
What?
and it's about them taking their child to college.
I can't.
And
even
picture, she never says it's Westerberg, but it's totally Westerberg.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's like, but the picture
Yeah,
she
my
paints
ex-
is like, he's almost like a big kid in a way.
Totally,
Like, it's like
100%. I see that. Yeah, he does not balance the checkbook.
Right.
Like he probably doesn't even drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm so grateful that whatever he focused on,
He doesn't
wrote
drive
best.
actually.
He bastards of young. Well, the amazing thing is this little history. So you young kids, you and your boy Blake Paris, much love. Shout out Blake. My old band Rent Boys. We met you guys, and we're playing with your band Young Antiques, and you guys are great. And we hit it off. We became mates, brothers right away,
Yeah.
And I remember us having drinks, and I remember saying, "Man, I like you guys a lot. You remind me of the Replacements."
Yeah.
And you're like, "All right, job done." And I was like, "I love that." Like the Young Antiques, and you're like, "Yeah, it's like it's a play on like something old. We're new, but sounding like old, like
Yeah, we were-
new vintage, or that kind of.
Yeah. That was our
Yeah.
clumsy way of
I
explaining
love,
it when we were kids.
I loved it. Well, it still works, and you're still putting out new music, singing
Yeah.
on a new record, singing a song with you recently. Thank you for having me. I've been on a bunch of your records now.
Yeah, and that one comes out October 20th. It's the Death in the Park single.
Excellent.
And then we'll see what else comes out after that. I've got some solo stuff I'm working on.
Yeah, the Demons. Demons
Oh,
are.
yeah.
That's so good as well, man. So
And, who knows?
Have you ever covered a replacement song or a Paul Wester?
Me and Shannon Mulvaney and Adam
from the 45.
The drummer.
from
Yeah.
the 45s. Yeah, we McIntyre, or it's Adam, not Adam McIntyre. Sorry.
Adam 45.
Yes.
Love you.
I remember.
My brain's not working. We covered like the whole like live album that they put out,
Okay.
and it was
Yeah.
intense. You know.
We,
like-
we did a show with you guys when we were the Raymonds, when we were doing Ramon songs.
Yeah.
On a Halloween or something. Wasn't that a few years ago?
It was like near Halloween, yeah. And so basically learning all those songs and singing all those songs on that record, it puts a lot into perspective about a certain artist for sure.
Yeah, I'm not very.
You really sink
I'm-
into those songs.
I'm not
I'm
very
sure.
good at doing covers too. The way like sometimes my brain works, I'm like, how did they do? I'm with you 100% on that. When you go to try to cover an artist that you've liked for years, and you're like, oh yeah, I sing along to them all the time when I'm driving, whatever. And then all of a sudden you have to do it, but the radio's not playing and your band's playing. You're like, wait, where am I coming in? Like somehow you're lost. At least I've been. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
newfound respect. Like,
Yeah.
Like certainly
To learn a whole catalog of a band.
like certainly when
Yeah.
we did those Ramon songs,
Yeah.
Marlo, who made a great Dee Dee, by the way, shout out to Dwayne and Casey, but Marlo was like, these Ramon songs make no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, music
Like,
to me is math and math and
listen to
poetry,
it, yeah,
and
yeah.
there's no. It's just like all of a sudden you're screaming, I want to sniff from glue, but you don't know what. Like,
Yeah.
And now certainly there's more math to the
Yeah,
replacement
yeah.
songs, you know.
Unfortunately, the era that we chose, we didn't do anything. We didn't do Pleased to Meet Me. We didn't get into that. We stopped at 10.
Yeah, so it's
And-
Tim and earlier.
It's Tim and
I like
earlier,
Pleased to Meet Me, though.
I love Pleased
Yeah, it's
to Meet
great,
Me.
man.
But for
Night
me,
Club
I didn't have to have like 3 or 4 guitars because he plays in such weird tunings
Right.
and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
Especially
I
in
didn't
the
think
Pleased to
about
Meet Me and Forward, kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I think the only thing weird I had to play was like Answering Machine. I forget
I
what
love
tuning
that song.
was.
I love that song.
Yeah, that's a good
Oh
one.
man, and because you're such a good singer, but like, it's a different type of scream. What he does. Did you do it as you, or did you try to do like him? I'm trying to remember.
Screaming?
Yeah, because I saw you
Oh.
play. I don't remember how you did it.
To get the Westerberg sort
Yeah,
of.
that's what I'm saying.
tried to do it as best I could, I
Yeah.
guess.
That's a hard one because that's also like karaokeing Westerberg. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
how do you? That's a
a hard one.
minefield. Yeah, it's like a tough one. It's like John Fogerty. Like you're gonna, like there's a certain very
Right. Yeah,
distinctive
good,
voice.
a good comparison
Yeah.
too, because
Where
they
you're
kind
like-
of come from that same cloth as well.
it's a-
Like you think about, it's so just good blue collar,
Yes.
and it's
Like
everything. Like I said,
like blue collar bottled up and just explodes.
I seriously, anytime I listen to them, I just see mop buckets. And maybe it's because when I read the book, I think it was a Tommy or one of them was
Bob, yeah,
he was,
was
he was
the-
working as a janitor
working
at a school or something, and he would walk by the house, and then
Paul was working for like one of the local politicians or whatever. He was like the janitor.
that's why it's so angry.
They all kind of had some sort of connection.
I just see,
to
I
that.
listen, I hear the songs, I smile, and I see mop buckets.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man.
And that was Adam Renshaw that played drums.
Adam Renshaw.
Sorry,
That's
Adam.
right.
We love you. Adam 45, Adam Renshaw. Great drummer, awesome dude, funny guy. But so that's the thing, because he really does have a pretty distinct voice, actually.
Westerberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like my old bandmate Joe Foy, who's
Love Joe.
older than all of us. He's the best. Like that is just
Oh, right.
just like singer. It's like that's just what he's like. When you want to hear a good singer, you think about Paul Westerberg. Like that's
Wow.
interesting to say
I
because
never thought of it that way.
he's not the greatest singer in the world, but he's right. He's kind of right about something because
Well-
it's all that emotion and all that.
He's a very, very good expressive singer,
Yeah,
and,
he's
and
very
it's,
expressive.
he has a very good feeling of it's coming out very
Right.
pure from him when
Yeah.
he's playing. most people, you play the song 300 times.
Yeah.
You're kind of going through you're singing the song, you're doing a good job, you're performing it. But
Right.
Westerberg has the magic of sort of making it feel like it's coming out of him almost like for the first time.
Yeah.
Maybe a certain element of his not
It's a
really
trick.
having
It's a
the
great
lyrics
trick.
fully
Right.
set. And I know he just kind of blows it off like, I can't really remember the lyrics. And you're like, no, you remember the lyrics. You played this 3
there's
but you kind
definitely,
of like
you know what you're doing.
do a little bit of a, there's this
dance.
like, nice little genuine
Well,
aspect of his
when I think
performing.
of great,
Yeah.
when I think of great punk singers and just great rock and roll singers, I think of like, it's important that no matter what you do, you're always in tune and you're always in key, and you'd be surprised how many people can't do that. And so on your best night or your worst night, you're still consistent and you're in key. That is huge. And then, more than being a good vocalist, having your own style that people recognize that comes across sincere.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's 100% across the board.
Yeah, I always thought of Westerberg like he's also kind of like a Midwestern, like Caucasian, like like Johnny B. Good kind of player. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of 50s riffs
Kinda like
there.
a-
yeah.
he's like Chuck Berry.
Rockabilly,
He's like
yeah.
he's like Chuck Berry meets
Early rock and roll.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause a lot of those
definitely
songs-
early rock, that Runka
Yeah.
Runka stuff, because he buries that kind of stuff in there with like the alt rock of the time. Or
A lot of
college
a
rock or
lot of
whatever.
those riffs are straight up 50s, like
Yeah.
rockabilly riffs.
I feel like if the songs were made, I do agree. Like it's kind of those songs have an '80s sort of like polish to them, or not polish,
Yeah.
but just an approach. But if it was the '90s, it might have been like replacements might have been sort of grungy or whatever. And then
Yeah.
if it was the 50s, it would have been like a rockabilly
Right.
kind of like the songs would have still made it. They
Right.
just would have been a little bit more like rockabilly tuned.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, he was. I think a lot of Westerberg's like songwriting influences came from like AM radio and the
Yeah.
50s and
I
60s
hear that
and stuff.
too.
You know,
A lot of the stuff is like, it sounds like something you would hear on AM radio.
Yeah.
Or his imagination. He thinks I mentioned the Outsiders earlier, you know, and like I just think of that whole time in the '80s, you know, like Matt Dillon. Funny enough,
was a
when
little bit of a
funny
throwback to
when I went to
50s
see the
revival a little bit,
Replacements
yeah.
in New York at the reunion show in like 2016. I was invited backstage and through some friends, and didn't get a chance to hang the band, but I was in a backstage area, whatever. But Matt Dillon was there, and I got to meet him. And the only time I met him before that was years before at a Joe Strummer show. So I'm like, that Matt Dillon guy's got good taste.
He gets around.
Yeah, he's very
Yeah.
cool. But I think of that like Rumblefish and Outside. It's just like great American like storytelling, but also when I listen to music that I love, especially these punk anthems that, you know, like Bastards of Young, that put me in a sentimental mood and reminded me of like, I remember the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
It's like I can see the lyrics being painted in the sky, so it's kind of like a film. Like it's beautiful.
yes.
It's
There's a nice
beautiful scope.
sentimentality to the music that I like a lot, for sure. That like he's not afraid. They're not afraid to be sentimental
That's it.
and touching, but they won't do it. They'll do it when
If
they
you
feel
ask
like
them.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
won't do it.
If you ask them to do it, they're gonna like. They're gonna be like.
They will not give you what you. They give you what you think you
They
deserve.
certainly pissed off
Yes.
the management and the record labels and stuff like that.
Yeah, like here we're gonna do a whole entire set of just being drunk and playing covers, the worst covers we can think of.
We're gonna put out an album called
And-
Stinks.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
gotta-
what are your thoughts on the cover of the Replacements?
Okay.
I
As-
forget the guy's name that did that, but I always thought it was weird.
I
Like
do too.
I think everybody thought it was weird.
I do
Like,
too. It almost looks
the
like
photo on the back.
It almost looks like
Legendarily weird.
It almost
covers.
looks like
yeah.
it should be more of like a Kraftwerk sounding album.
Yeah.
Than the album, the music
I
that's
always,
on it.
I always thought like that kind of weird like sound that the record has. That I guess it sounded like they might have recorded it in there. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wondered about that.
And then the shot on the back is just
Just like a little
like
regular
It's
live
a
photo.
weird
sort of
dated.
tell anybody.
dark.
It's a weird
Yeah.
dated thing, but
Yeah,
when the
totally.
record's that good, you kind of forget about it. And now you just take it, and I like it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's iconic, and I see it, I know what that is. you
Yeah.
know?
It was mysterious, so that goes a long way in the rock and roll.
I mean, I will say there wasn't a band that looked cooler than them on that rooftop on Pleased to Meet Me.
Well, I do think about...
Like, that's Pleased to Meet Me, right? When they're on the rooftop.
No, that's...
that's Let It Be.
That's Let It Be.
Yeah.
Okay, there wasn't a cooler
Pleased
looking
to Meet Me
band
had
at that
the
time.
handshake.
Like they got like all like Bad Seeds and birthday party haircuts and like just like looked so cool.
Replacements are a band that I think there's a few bands. I think Mott the Hoople's like that too, where there's no consistency from album to album as far as the way it looks.
Yeah.
Like almost it's also kind of self-sabotaging because every album looks
There's no aesthetic.
so bizarrely
no
different.
aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no like
like
sort of continuity. It's like, oh, here's this weird painting. Oh, and the next one is like a cartoon of two hands drawn, or like a picture stylized of the two hands shaking.
Yeah.
The Let It Be is like the quintessential. I think.
Yeah, like
That's the coolest.
Hootenanny's cover.
Yeah.
That's taken from an old
Hootenanny,
folk
right?
vinyl collection of songs, Hootenanny, and also Pleased to Meet Me is actually a rip-off of Elvis Presley's GI Blues.
Yeah, with the,
So if you
the,
put
the
them side by side, you
design
can
is
totally
very-
see that.
yeah.
This I don't know what happened there, but
and Don't Tell a Soul, you're like,
I mean,
just
I
black,
love-
and it all shook down, looks like it's made on an early computer, or
yeah.
whatever.
And speaking of
design.
Let It Be, they're calling the new master of this, or the new mixes, the Let It Bleed session.
Okay.
Because I think they were thinking about calling Tim Let It Bleed for a while there.
Which is a Stones album, right?
Yeah,
But
Stones
if you
out.
go
Okay,
from
so
Let It Be to Let It Bleed,
They were actually seriously thinking about
Right.
doing that.
Okay.
They're like, let's piss off some more people.
we're just gonna rip
Right.
off famous albums. It's gonna be called Abbey Road. after
Right.
all.
Well, yeah, I think that was the thinking.
I got an
yeah.
idea for the cover. It's gonna be a tongue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I guess
man.
there's.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love doing this, and I know we've been talking to you about it for so long. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so awesome having you on, man. And the cool thing about the show is, everyone who watches, thank you for you do watch. We do have people reach out to us saying, either I'd never heard this band or this record before, like we did Leatherface Mush, or they go, oh, I've been listening to that since college. Thank you guys. I restarted
Right.
listening
I'm
to
gonna
it
put
again.
it on.
And it's really cool, man.
Listen to not
Yeah.
just Masters of Young
Right, listen to
or
the whole
Mascara.
catalog, or
I'm
listen,
gonna
sit
listen
down
to
with
the whole album.
sit down with
Yeah.
a cheap glass of red wine and listen to all of Tim in order, and like it is a movie,
That's awesome. Maybe the Replacements will give us a shout out if we help people buy their new box set.
Yeah,
That's exactly what we're
the
doing.
new reissue. I'm sure Paul Westerberg has nothing to do with it at all.
Yeah.
He's just like,
He's like, whatever.
But-
Yeah, I wonder. Bob Mayer is the guy. He puts them all together. The guy that wrote the book, Trouble Boys. And so I think he's involved
Championing them.
he's
Now,
involved
is
in
he
this.
still on good terms with them?
Who's that?
Bob Mayer.
Bob Mayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing the.
He's like, I just
the
want to
new
be
one.
honest with you. I talked some shit to you guys. They're like, that's cool.
I think they saw
They
that.
okayed all of
I think
it,
they
yeah.
okayed all of it. So yeah, I guess they're.
Well, that's kind of cool too. It's like, yeah. What you see is what you get. Once in a while, I'm a scumbag. Like whatever. Like here you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you got to live with it. And I guess if anybody's going to admit it, it's the Replacements.
I'm so glad that they're around, man. So glad that the band's around, and appreciate you guys for watching.
thank you.
We're gonna have another one of these beers and close out. But shout out again to Murphy and everyone at Bookhouse Pub.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice and cool.
Yes,
Yeah, so it's good
and
to hear.
Ava,
Not boiling in the
and,
heat.
And man, everyone be good to each other, man. And check out the new Young Antique single next month. T-Chess is going to be on it. And much love, man. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice hanging out.